Hey everybody, it's Shannon. I want to thank you for stopping by the channel. We talked the last time about some of the beehives that we're using. We talked, well, some of the ones that we're using this year and some of the ones we've used in the past and some other options for people. It's all according to what you want or need. I thought this time we'd talk about some of the tools that I keep around. It's always important to have the right tools. I know my dad, he always had a garage full of tools. He always said you need the right tool for the job. Makes life easier, and it does. So I just wanted to go over a few things with you. Start off with the clothing. We do have the full suit, which I don't like to wear much. They're hot for one thing, kind of cumbersome to me. But it's the full pants and hood and everything, all just a one piece, like a jumpsuit. We got the gloves with it. These are the heavy gloves. You can see they get kind of dirty. I'll talk about that in a minute, but I don't like the suit so much. Like I say, it's kind of bulky and cumbersome, and it's really hot. The gloves, to me, these are too thick. They're the kind of leather stuff, and it's hard to tell when you're squishing a bee with them, and I don't like to do that. But they do help keep you from getting stung, if that's a concern. Sometimes I will just wear like these surgical type things you get in the first aid department or whatever. It just, like, you can see how dirty these gloves get. You got all that propolis and wax and everything in the hives. This helps keep your fingers clean, because that stuff does get kind of hard to wash off. Rather than the suit, I usually just wear a hat and a veil. I like this one really well. I've had this since, well, my wife and I started keeping bees in 2014, so I've had this since then. I do believe in, whether you wear a suit or a jacket or anything like that, I do believe in keeping a veil on your face. The bees they'll come at your face if they get agitated, and you don't want them stinging you in the face, around the eyes, or anything like that. So I do believe in keeping that on. I know my first year of beekeeping, got a little too comfortable and was checking the bees one day, and you'll see them sometimes when you open the hive. They'll line up in between them frames, kind of looking up at you, and they're guarding it just like the entrance. And if they get too agitated, they'll come up and get into your face. And the one time I was working on them and didn't have the veil on, I thought it wasn't a big deal, because they're real gentle bees, which is what you want. But one of them got a little jumpy about something, and she come up out of there, and I had a cap on like this, and she hit the bottom of that bill and bounced into my forehead and stung me right in the middle of the forehead. So yeah, keeping a veil on is good for you and the bees. But yeah, you want some kind of protection to keep the bees off of you, depending on the bees. For me, it's not too big of a deal as long as they're gentle bees. But sometimes I wear long sleeves, just like a long sleeve t-shirt or something. But you do want to keep your clothes kind of tucked in, keep your shirt tucked in. It's a good idea to tuck your pant legs into some boots or whatever. Maybe even rubber band the sleeves, because you don't want the bees getting inside the clothes, because then them clothes get tight if you move and they think they're getting squished and they sting. And the other thing you want to watch is don't wear real dark clothes when you're working on the bees, because they see that as a predator. They're thinking, skunks and black bears and things like that. That's what it looks like to them. They see something dark, they see something dangerous coming at them, and they'll try to defend that. So a brighter color clothes, especially like the suits are white or off-white, that's a good idea, to just not too dark. Another thing that's important, it helps the bee stay calm, is a smoker. This is the one I use. I've had this since 2014. You just take the top off and you load your fuel in it, whatever. You can use, I started out using like dried leaves and pine needles. People use dry grass. I've gotten to where I use burlap. You can buy a roll of burlap for next to nothing. It'll last you a lifetime, and it works good. But you get it in there and get it smoldering, and you just pump the billow a little bit. And you're not really trying to smoke the bees out and blast them with a lot of smoke. You just want to waft a little bit over them, and that helps cover up the pheromones, and it keeps them calm. Some people say that the smoke makes them think the hive's on fire, and they will gorge themselves with honey, and they'll be so busy eating the honey that they won't pay attention to you. Whether they really think the hive's on fire or not, I don't know. But I do know that the smoker will help them keep calm. You just waft a little bit just waft a little bit of smoke over them every once in a while you're working on them, and it just helps settle them. If they start coming at you too much, you can put a little bit of smoke on your skin or on your shirt, and that'll kind of help things. But getting stung is not really that big of a deal. People say, why you keep bees if you're going to get stung? Well, to me it's worth the payoff, but you know, we like helping the bees and we like the honey, but the stings aren't really that bad. But if you do it right, you're not going to get stung so much. The right clothing, work in the hive, work slow, deliberate, don't make a lot of quick movements, don't bang the stuff together. Those things will help keep the bees calm. So that helps you out a lot. If you do have an allergic reaction or something to stings, I keep an EpiPen. That's something I got when I first started beekeeping. I got my doctor wrote me a prescription, and I can get these EpiPens, get a 2-pack. They're about $10–15 maybe, and they're good to have around in case of an emergency. You never know, a neighbor or somebody around. If you've got neighbors, if you got people in your apiary, you're showing them your apiary. I got grandkids, if I'm teaching them to work on the bees. If somebody would happen to have an allergic reaction where if it's bad enough, they can go into anaphylactic shock, and an EpiPen will help. It can save them, because it can cause you to stop breathing and everything else. And so if you have an EpiPen around, you can get them to the hospital if they get bad. But we really don't have a problem with it. I just keep it around in case other people are around or neighbors or something like that. Less trouble, just a lot easier to keep it around. Those are the basic safety things. Another thing, I like to keep a tube of this Afterbite. This one's kind of dirty, it's been laying around in the toolbox. This Afterbite, you get it in like where they got the insect repellent off and stuff like that in the camping and whatever. It's just a little waxy kind of a tip, and the stuff in there, it smells kind of like rubbing alcohol, but it's got other stuff in it. And if you get a sting, you can rub a little bit of that on the sting, and it'll kind of help take the burn out or whatever. But the other thing it does is it masks the pheromones. When a bee stings you, a little bit of pheromone gets on that area where she stings you, and sometimes that will trigger other bees to sting. And I have seen it where the bee will sting you and you get that stinger off of there, but more bees will come at you and they'll try to sting that same spot where that pheromone is. So you can rub a little bit of that Afterbite on there and it'll get rid of that. You can also lick your finger and just rub it a little bit, and that'll get it off of there. Or some people just smoke the smoker on it, and that works too. But the Afterbite just kind of has a multi-purpose thing to it, so I keep that around. Another important thing are the hive tools. There's several different kinds. Most people have something like this. It's just got the flat end that you scrape with, pry with, whatever. And then the curved end, you can scrape with that too, but you can also use that. You get them in between the frames and you can wiggle them and pop the frame up. You just want to be careful not to slide it down under the frame. It'll cut the comb and you can spill honey and stuff like that. But and that works, that's fine. But I like another one, the one I use and have been using for over 10 years. It's kind of the same thing. It's got both the flat end and the curved end like this, but it's also got this little hook, and you can get that in between the sidebar of the frame and the inside wall of the hive, and get that on top of the bars, and you can pick a frame up with it if they're stuck down, a lot of propolis and stuff, and makes it easier to pick them up. You can see that, just a little bit of a hook on there. I really recommend that. It's just a lot easier, especially when the hive's been in use for a few years. It gets really sticky inside. That helps. I keep a magnifying glass around. My eyes, I'm getting older and my eyes aren't what they used to be. Even with my glasses, a lot of times I can't see what I'm looking for in their eggs and different things like that. And a magnifying glass will help you with that. This one had a little light that lit this area up, but when it works good. But that don't work anymore. So queen cage, I use a clip cage. You catch your queen. If you see her, you can put her in that, and that's handy when you're trying to find the queen. If you like, sometimes when you're doing splits and things, you want to know where the queen is, and you can put her in this cage, and the other worker bees can still get to her and take care of her. Then you can lay it on the top bar somewhere and know where she's at, and when you get done with your splits, you can make sure she goes in the box you want her to go in. So that's a good thing to have. And then as far as marking queens, little paint pen marker. This one's blue. 2025 is blue. They rotate colors every 5 years, and so I keep that one around for this year. But once you've got your queens marked, you really don't need to carry it around with you. I just keep it in the toolbox so I know where it's at. There's a decapping tool. Some people like these. I don't really use it much. Sharp little points on there, and you can stick it under the caps and clean the caps off of the comb. Some people do that when they're extracting honey. Other times you can do that if you're checking drone cells, looking at drone cells for mite larvae and stuff in them. They'll use that. I also keep cutting tools around. I keep a pair of scissors around just in case. Haven't really had a use for them too much, but I keep them anyway. And I keep these little knives, these little razor knives. I get a little box of them for not very much. They're cheap, but it's just a little razor blade kind of, and you can cut with that like comb. Sometimes you need to cut comb. You can cut. I've cut a little piece off of the brood comb that had eggs in it. You flip it up and get them to make queens. I'll show you how to do that sometime. You get a place that's got some wax moth larvae or small hive beetle larvae in it. If it's just in a concentrated area, you can cut that out. There's different reasons to have that. I do keep that around. I keep a rag around to kind of wipe things off. Stuff gets kind of messy and sticky. I use just an old lunchbox for a toolbox. You can use a toolbox. I've seen people use 5-gallon buckets, whatever you got, just to keep things with you where you know where they're at. As far as a bucket goes, that's another thing they say. You keep around a bucket of warm soapy water, and in between the hives, after you finish one hive, you take your rag and your water and you rinse your tools off real good. What that does is if you get something like American foul brood or chalk brood or something like that, you're not going to transfer it from one hive to the other and contaminate everything. I haven't really done that too much. I'm not going through hundreds of hives at a time. I can kind of pay attention to see if there's a problem like that, and if there is, I'll stop and wash it off. Otherwise, I'll just wait until I'm done and wash them off. But those are just some of the basics. There's other things that you can have around. I've got it's like a little flashlight, but it's an ultraviolet light, like a black light, and you can use that inspecting inside the combs and stuff. You can see it'll light up things like eggs and little larvae and things like that, but I can't use it much because, I don't know, out in the daylight like that, it doesn't seem to really help a whole lot. I don't take the hives in the dark to inspect them, so I don't have a lot of use for that. Another thing a lot of people use is a bee brush. It'll have a long handle on it, and the bristles, those kind of the soft bristles, you can use them to brush bees out of the way. You can use them to, when you're doing a mite check, you might be doing a mite check with an alcohol wash or a sugar shake, and you can brush them into the cup. But I don't use them. I had one my first year, and it just seems to me like they cause more trouble. The bees don't like it. They get agitated. They get to flying around real thick. And to me, it's just easier just to brush them off a little bit with your hand, or just take your hives tool and put it up to the comb and just move it a little bit. But if you're just trying to move bees out of the way, you'll see me in the videos a lot of times. You hold the frame up and you just blow on it real easy. And in that area, they don't like that air blowing on them, and they'll move out of the way. And that, to me, that's the easiest way to do it, and they don't seem to get upset. So those are just some of the basic things. There's a lot of other tools you can get if you want them. You can get a frame grip, like a little pair of jaws that grips the top of the frame. It's got a handle, and when you squeeze it, it grips the frame. I don't like it too much because it can either slip or off or make you drop it, or it'll slip underneath that top bar and puncture the comb, spill honey and everything. But other people use them and like them, so there's that. But that's the basic stuff that I keep around, and I'll put links in the description to some of this stuff so you can check it out. I hope that helps you out, and if you got questions, put them in the comments. We'll try to answer the questions, and just see you next time. Thank you.